the Let's Get Romantic podcast. Tonight I have my friends Ty and Mako joining me. So say hi, guys. Okay, so tonight's episode is just kind of like an introductory deal where we just kind of, you know, just chat, I guess. Like, in case, I'm already messing this up, guys. I'm a little nervous. I haven't done this in forever. Um, so for the audience, I am Chelsea. I am your host. Um, and I am a personal assistant to 5 amazing romance authors. I am an upcoming author myself, and I'm what you would call a smut slut. Because I love me some smut. If it's not spicy enough, I'll let you know. Granted, I'll read books that aren't spicy, I like a little Jane Austen and some clean romances, but for the most part, like, if you look at my Kindle, literally everything in there is smut, for the most part. And in case you couldn't tell by the title, this is a podcast mainly dedicated to the love and enjoyment of romance novels, but we will be discussing like books in general because that's how we do it here. Yes, yes. Originally, I was going to do this with Heather, but her schedule's hectic, my schedule's hectic. It was kind of hard to find a time that we would both be available. So here we are. Um, but don't worry, there'll probably be some episodes in the future where Heather and I can finally get together and do this. So, if you guys want to introduce yourself, a little fun fact about you, share, go ahead and share. Don't be shy. Oh, so we have somebody in the group that doesn't read. So some of the input we get from Ty will have to be from like a cinematic point of view, but it'd be better if I mean, we could manage to pop that in there. I, I mean, I'm perfect. Well, not exactly, because this is supposed to be about books, but I'm okay like having discussions about book to movie adaptations. I'm always down for that type of conversation. Now, there's another thing I should mention. Um, as you'll notice, there's gameplay in the background. That is because I'm doing this through the PlayStation. And the only way I could actually use the streaming ability is if I'm playing a game. So, there's that. But I will figure out how to separate the gameplay from the podcast so that I could take the audio and stick it up on Spotify, and we'll get that going soon too. Plus, you'll also be hearing my fan in the background. I am sorry, it is hot as balls here in New York, and I need the fan. So, I apologize if anybody's annoyed by the sound of the fan. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that after the episode's done. So, anyways, let's talk romance, guys. Let's talk about it because we love that here. Okay. Ah, yes. House of Leaves. What are you curious about? Yes. And it's a hard book to keep up with as well because like just the way that it's formatted, it's made to be difficult to keep track of. It's supposed to be like a fever dream. And it's got a somewhat disturbing story in the background of it all. It's good though. It's good. It's a behemoth. So if people that are not into huge books, if you're not into like the big behemoths, don't look into this one. It's big and confusing. No, it has absolutely nothing to do with tea. But but leaves are a thing. Leaves are important to the story, kind of. No, you gotta read it to like fully understand it and to fully grasp it. I mean, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. I don't know if you can because it's kind of its own thing. Yeah, it's kind of its own thing. It's kind of hard to compare it to another novel because really there's nothing like it. And it's got all the horror vibes, all the disturbing vibes, all like it's a mind fuck. It's good though. It's like a mind fuck in all the best ways. Oh, I've got plenty of horror recommendations for you guys if you need them. I got you covered. I got you covered. I got you covered there, bro. I got all the recommendations. Some, like, a good majority of them are smutty, but I'm sure you can overlook that. So, as you guys know, yesterday, yesterday. So, one of the authors I PA for, Patricia Mattern, for those that don't know, um, she released Hurricanes yesterday. And dude, I've already been mentioned twice. Not by name. I don't get mentioned by name until chapter 10. But I have been referred to twice already. Oh, allow me. Hold on. Let me bring up my. Let me bookmark that page. Let me bring up. So, in case anybody's like, why are you implying that it's you? I had a talk with Patricia. She actually she was ecstatic to add me to this because I am so in love with her villain. I am in love with Casper. Like, I love him. I would die for this man. And so allow me to bring up. Hold on, if this'll work. My Kindle's been acting weird lately, and I don't know why. Oh, come on. I guess I gotta go to chapter 1. Oh, okay, here we go. Now it's working, fellas. So allow me to read the segments that I have been referred to in. So in chapter 1, this segment, it says he had captured a young local woman initially. As was his usual habit, he had abducted the unfortunate miss as she was walking home at twilight, intending on quenching his thirst. But she was exquisitely pretty, with dimples in all the right places, and seemed strangely captivated by him. Unlike the other dozens of her predecessors, she never wept or pleaded with him for her life. She seemed to accept her inevitable fate with an unusual degree of self-possession and maturity beyond her years or education. Instead, she stymied him by yielding to him without his ever mesmerizing her. He took her roughly. She made a noise when he first thrust his manhood into her innocent-looking quim, and since most of the young, non-aristocratic girls, he betted, seemed to surrender their maidenhead at an early age in Paragon County, he had been pleasantly surprised. That was the first thing. The second thing was, after he finished fucking her, she seemed to enjoy him feeding on her, moaning softly as he sucked out her crimson vitality, as though he were pleasuring her. His entire experience with her was so unusual and refreshing that he decided to keep her as a pet. Dude, that's the first reference, and I love it. And I love it. I love it. It's so accurate. Okay, so then the second reference. Oh, come on. It's doing that thing again. I'm sorry. The Kindle's acting bad. Okay, here we go. So the second reference. So, for context, Casper is talking to his son Preston about Avery Ray and having Avery Ray, because Preston is married to Avery's sister Sadie, and Casper's bringing up the idea of being a loving and doting husband to Sadie while pursuing Avery on the side, have what he can't have. A little taste of forbidden fruit, if you will. So he brings up his current situation. And he says, even speaking of my own situation, I am currently betting a beautiful woman who has proven to be my match in many ways and who encourages me to be a better man, and then another who is my secret delight, my fondest compulsion, and my addiction. Between the two, I have been the happiest that I can remember being in centuries of existence. Every day is an adventure. I never know whether Lady Roxanne will kiss me or kick me in the balls when we meet. And the other one? Well, I love feeding on her and engaging in click it with her. She is the best of young womanhood, and though I am older and fearsome, she has never shied away from me. She is my beautiful moth, and I am the flame that she willingly rushes toward. Dude, accurate. So, that's where I've been mentioned twice. Come chapter 10, that's when you really get into my, because that's come chapter 10, that's where I actually get mentioned by name. So, we'll put it this way. I have some competition for Casper's Love, and I'm not letting this Roxanne bitch win. But here's the thing: if Roxanne is based on an actual person, I'm sorry for the Roxanne bitch thing. If I only say it in the context that Roxanne's a fictional character, not based on an actual person. It's literally vampires meet Gone with the Wind at first, but now it's more. It's still like the old South, but it's the Civil War has been done for years, so it's a more modern. Like it's not like 21st century or anything, but it's fairly modern Virginia. So yeah, it's literally like vampire. It's like a fictional, historical fiction vampire series. It's really good. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's straight up vampires. And it's kind of funny because like there are a bunch of vampire series that I've read and I've adored over the years. But I'm not gonna lie, I think the Midnight Magnolia series by Patricia, I think that's taken over as number one. Because I've gotten to follow these families and these characters since book one to now, and I'm invested. I love them. I never want this series to end. I know it has to, because like all good things, there must be an end. Um, but yeah, I think this is like my number one favorite series right now, vampire wise. Which is sad because that pushes Twilight to second place. I mean, the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice still number one, so it's tied with the Midnight Magnolia series. But yeah, some of the other vampire series I've read are like second place and lower now. So you guys don't have to be quiet. You guys can add your favorite books and stuff, right? That's the point of this. Oh yes, please give me the skinny, give me the lowdown. Oh, what's the premise? Like, what's the blurb? Yes. Ooh, that sounds really good, actually. Oh wait, that's Emily Henry that wrote it? Oh wow, no way. I love her work. Oh, she is. Especially upon like if you're on if, like for those on Book Talk, a lot of the book talks you'll see, they like there'll be book talk videos that are like the best books I've ever written, or not written, the best books I've ever read. The best books I've ever read, and there's at least one Emily Henry book in the list. Ooh, book the Beach Read. Beach Read is a very good book. It's emotional at points. I mean, a lot of good romance novels are, but it's very good, very good. I can't remember. I don't think it does. I mean, the beach kind of is involved. You know, obviously it's added into the story, but I don't think it starts on the beach. But it does cover topics of loss and that type of thing. It's amazing. It's super sad sometimes, but that's a good book too. So, what other books are on that list? I don't think I've ever heard of that one. I know I haven't read it. Ooh. Ooh, that sounds really good, actually. Which leads me to this question. When it comes to books, do you pick them up based on the cover or do you pick them up based on the description? Now, here's this other question. So, when you pick up, like, when you look at a book cover, does the, like, does the cover speak to you more if it's pretty or if it looks like it has something to do with the story itself? Fair enough. Me, I'm a pretty cover person. So, like, I mean, the cover could have absolutely nothing to do with the book itself. But if it's pretty, I'll probably pick it up. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, Beach Read, that's a pretty sad story. You don't want a super lively cover for a super sad story. And the cartooniness of it, like the super cartoony covers like that are romance novels, don't let them fool you, because there have been people that I know of that have been like, "Oh, this cover is so cute," and they pick it up and it's smut, and they're like, "I picked this up because the cover was cute. I had no idea it was this dirty." So it's like one of those, don't judge a book by its cover, kind of, because what's inside may be different than the cover is portraying. I mean, it's important to read the description, really, because I'm telling you, there have been many of people that have picked up a very cute cover, thinking it's gonna be this cute, innocent story, and then it's non-stop smut, and they're like, "Oh, good lord, I didn't know." It's like, hey, you can't just, you can't let that cover be the thing that's gonna, if you do that, you could be picking up something you don't want to read. How so? Right, right. But even some of the best authors out there have their flops. I mean, Stephen King is no exception to the rule. I mean, if you were to ask him, "Hey, do you think you have flops?" he'd be quick to tell you, "Oh yeah, I didn't like this book. I don't even remember writing this one." And, for instance, he does not like the Tommy Knockers, absolutely hates it. He doesn't remember writing Cujo because he was um, dealing with an addiction at the time that made it hard for him to, like, function. And as a result, he doesn't even remember writing the story of Cujo. And there are some books of his that others will tell you, hey, I mean, it had potential, and I really wanted to like it. I'm really sad that I don't, though, because this reason and that reason. Absolutely. I mean, you kind of have to have a good head on your shoulders when you're writing. Well, as I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, hey, we're talking about all books if we want to. Because that's how we do it here. That's how we do it here. Now, you want to read a romance novel that Stephen King has written? There's Hearts in Atlantis. But if we want to stray off the romance path for a bit, this is at the end of the day, yes. The title is Let's Get Romantic, and the whole premise is romance, but at the end of the day, it is a book related podcast, so we could stray off the romance path, just talk books in general, because that's what we're all here for. We're all here because we love to read. Exactly. Stephen King is the GOAT. In my opinion, he's the GOAT. I don't know that one. It's all good. Let's try to keep the dead air to a limit, though. I feel like we're being a little too quiet. So let's try to keep the conversation lively, folks. Well, maybe you should contribute. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Yes. Ah, if you would like to plug, you may do so. It sounds like it's going to be pretty interesting. Oh, of course. You definitely got this. Like, honestly, if you were to present that to me right here, right now, I would definitely like devour it. Oh, and this is another thing I will mention to the viewers and the listeners. Um, we're also probably gonna get onto the tangent of writing and stuff. So yeah, I still consider talking about writing like talking about books, because obviously before a book is a book, it has to be written. So yeah, we'll probably get into plenty of conversations about writing and what we're currently writing and writing goals. So that's another thing. If you guys are into that, you have that to look forward to. With that being said, I'm about to shamelessly plug my current work in progress. So I'm writing a book called Vampire Speed Dating for Vampires. Yeah, vampire nerd. So, like the whole premise of it is there are two characters that it kind of centers on, and that's Lorelai and Damien. Lorelai, her father is the leader of her coven, and she is reaching that age where if she doesn't end up married, she's technically considered a spinster, which is, in vampire, when it comes to vampires, it's kind of weird because like they live forever, but like she's reaching that age where if she doesn't get married, odds are she never will. And her father has set up an arranged marriage with the son of a rival coven, and she is determined to marry for love, not out of duty. So she decides to take matters in her own hands, and she decides to try speed dating in order to find her potential mate before she has to marry this this prince. And she meets Damien, and I mean, hilarity kind of ensues in the relationship at first. Um, as it's kind of like fake dating for a bit. She just is just, like, I have to marry this guy if I don't find somebody out of love or whatever. So it's kind of like they fake dating, like they're doing the whole fake dating thing. And eventually, they find themselves falling in love. Her parents kind of see reason when she's like, "Well, didn't you guys marry for love?" And they're like, "You know what? You're right," because they're good parents. So they're not going to force her into something she doesn't want to be in. Well, the her betrothed, the prince of the rival coven, finds out that she's kind of found somebody that's not him, and he's absolutely pissed because he doesn't have this beautiful princess on his arm as a trophy wife to do everything he tells her to do. It's kind of like he feels emasculated because he doesn't have, because he's been turned down by this woman. How dare a woman turn him down? And it'll lead to a full-on vampire war between the two covens. I'm not going to give too much away because it's one of those things where I don't, I want the reader to read it and enjoy it, not knowing what's going to happen next. But just be ready for a bunch of twists and turns, some comic relief when things start to get super dark. But yeah, that's the current work in progress, and then I have um, plans for two different Lovecraftian romance series. One is a rom com series, and the other is a dark romance. So there's that. It's. I mean, in the Midnight Magnolia series, the one that I'm reading right now by Patricia, there was a vampire war brewing for a while in the series, and it was pretty wild. It's great. And I think when I get to that part when when I'm ready to write that out, I'm probably gonna consult her because Patricia's kind of written her own little vampire war. That's kind of died down a little bit, but I mean, the funny thing about this book is the idea came to me when I was in the shower. I was just showering and the idea came to me, and I'm like, you know what? That would be a pretty good idea. Um, I guess you could say some, but it's more trying to kill the rivals off. Most vampires do, yes. I think it's gonna be fun to write. Okay. You're gonna have to explain that because that's it. That like I may sound stupid for this, but for me right now, my like it sounds a little too overcomplicated. So you're gonna have to probably break that down into the tiny terms. Right. Well, if there's something like if there's one thing I could tell you, if you're gonna write, you have to read. You cannot write, and I don't. People could come after me for this, but if you are going to write a book, you have to read. Because if you do not read, you cannot write a book. Period. So if you're kind of being pressured to pick up a book while you're writing, I would say that's probably for the best. But if it's making it a less enjoyable experience, I say pick it up for yourself and just. But if people are pressuring it on you because they're kind of looking out for your creative process, let them, because they're just kind of looking out for you. Because I mean, Stephen King said it best: if you don't have the time to read, then you don't have the time to write. But yeah, that my best advice is if you're gonna write, you need to read. Like, it is a requirement. They go hand in hand. But if you're finding that being pressured into it is making it a less than enjoyable experience, then I say ignore the people that are pressuring it on you and just pick it up for fun. That's what I do. Because, like, I remember in high school, like, when we read 1984, it was like a requirement. Like, we had no choice, and it felt like a chore. And I absolutely hated the book for that reason, because I didn't get to enjoy it for my. Oh my God, Mako left. A little bit of a technical difficulty here. Hope he didn't get kicked. Oh no, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty here. Um, I apologize. I should have known something was gonna come up to like kind of muff it up a bit. There he is. He's back. Okay. Okay. So, as I was saying before about the whole reading situation, um, in high school, I read, it was a requirement to read 1984, and because it was a requirement, it felt like a chore, and I hated it. Like, I despised that book with every fiber of my being, and now as an adult, I actually picked it up recently and read it for fun, and I absolutely love it. Yeah. So I find reading to be a more fun experience if you're doing it for fun instead of like as a requirement or giving into pressure. Okay. Oh, absolutely. I am of the belief that like a teacher that'll sit there and tell their students, you know what, you're too stupid, you can't read. I think that's a pretty shitty teacher. Like, a teacher's job is to encourage their pupils, you know. If a student's having a hard time reading, you help them with that. You don't sit there and say, hey, you can't read, because that's kind of like, first of all, that's uncalled for and it's so unprofessional, but secondly, that's kind of gatekeeping if you think about it. That's kind of gatekeeping, like the reading world. Like, you have a student that is having a hard time reading, and you tell them, oh, give me that book, you can't read. That's like telling them, you can't read, you're not welcome to read. Which is no excuse. I mean, if a teacher is sick all the time, that I guess that's understandable because they're humans too. But that doesn't give them the right to sit there and discourage their students. I think that's just I think that's really crappy. Um, and it doesn't make them look like a good teacher at all. If anything, it makes them look really bad. Like, if I had a teacher that would do that, I'd probably be like between hurt angry, and discouraged. I'd probably be feeling all three. Which is wrong. Like what she did was not right by you. Um, so I just hope that hasn't like I just hope that like you could look past that and like pick up a book and still enjoy it, because that's the beauty of reading. It's something that, I mean, people that love to read, it binds us together. It gives us something to talk about, something to bond over. And I think like, if it destroyed your love of possibly reading, I think that's a disservice to you. Well, my best advice is pick up a book now and let that be the biggest, like the best revenge you could get on that teacher. They said I can't read. Well, guess what? I'm reading. But you gotta say no, bitch. Like, let that be the best revenge you could get on that teacher. Let that be the best revenge you could get on her. That's my best advice. Like, if you or anybody listening has ever been discouraged in that sense, where you're told by somebody that's supposed to enrich your love of reading and enrich your education, if there's anybody that's ever told you you can't do this, my best advice: prove them wrong. Pick up a book, read it, and let that be the best revenge you could get on them. Well, this is revenge, and well, there's good revenge and bad revenge. We're talking of a good revenge. We're not saying go out and hit them with the book and say, I read this while you hit them. We're saying pick up the book, read it, and then tell them, or like write a review or something about what you read, in hopes of them possibly one day looking at that review and going, huh, I told him he couldn't read. Boy, do I feel like a tool. Oh, my like the date that I would enjoy the most. Okay, so I'm a fat ass. Not afraid to admit it. So you take me out to dinner, or you take me out to lunch, depending on the time of day, and then take me to Barnes and Noble. Take me to Barnes and Noble, and let me pick out any of the books I want, and you'll win my heart. And even better, let me pick out something for you to read too. Like, it's not, this is a date between two people. It's not, hey, take me out and buy me all these books. It's, if you want to buy me these, cool, that's cool. I'll pick the ones I want and we'll go with that. But I would also, if I'm on a date with somebody, I would also like to pick out a book for them to read. Because ultimately, if I'm going to be with somebody, there's got to be that love of reading in there that we can bond over. Because, like, I've dated guys in the past. Like, for instance, I dated this one guy who, like, reading was so below him that he would beat up people that read for fun. So if I'm dating somebody, if I'm with somebody, they've got to love to read in some capacity. Thankfully, Jared reads when he can, I guess. I mean, it's not as often as I'd like, but at least he's reading, right? And from time to time, his version of a nice date, taking me to Barnes and Noble, I think I got it made. He'll sit there and he'll be like, "So, I kind of want to take you to Barnes and Noble." I'm like, "Oh, really?" "Yeah, I'll give you $100 to spend on any of the books you want." I'm like, what did I do to deserve you? You know, here's this guy who knows that I'm addicted to reading, and he's like, "You know what? I think I want to take you to Barnes and Noble. I won't say no." In fact, my answer is usually like, "Okay, are we going this week? Because I kind of want to go now." No. In that case, I would say so. I mean, most girls want their knight in shining armor, their Mr. Darcy, if you will. So I would say, in some respects, yeah. Then you have some that are different, you know. But yeah, I think most of them like to find something romantic because it makes them swoon. Ah, yes, it's kind of hard at first. Um, but I think once you get in the rhythm of it, it comes a lot more naturally. Me, I'm queerer than a $2 bill. And this is not used in a homophobic or anything because I'm queer. I am a sapio-romantic asexual, so like sex scenes don't come naturally to me. Um, but yet I kind of have to learn how to do those. Because the dark romance I'm writing is um, it's sexual in nature, and I'm kind of nervous about it because like I tried to write a sex scene once, and it was just the most awkward thing ever. But I'm thinking, and once I get in the rhythm of it, it should come naturally, which is why I say for you, writing a romance scene, once you get in the rhythm of it, it should come it should come easy. It's like practice makes perfect is the best way I could put it. Oh, for sure. For sure. I have read my fair share of like awkward romance scenes, and let me tell you, I loved them. It added a little bit of like comedy to the romance story itself, and it was just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Well, let me tell you, Lorelei is no different. What you just described of vampires, that's Lorelei. Now, the last thing I kind of want to bring up before we end this episode. So, as an author, I tend to have conversations with my characters in my head. Like lately, I've had conversations with Lorelai and Damien because they're acting like a couple of petulant infants right now. Kind of going back and forth. "Oh, I'm not gonna marry you. I hate you." That type of thing from time to time. And I have to sit there and threaten them and go, "Hey, if you guys don't shut up, I'll kill both of you." How you feel about that? Like, do you ever do that, Mako, with your characters? Man, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could like carry on a conversation with characters like that. I've got to have the chaos because it kind of gives me motivation, if you will. Because like if I have two characters fighting with each other like they're freaking kindergarteners, it gives me more motivation to decide what to do with them. And as the author mom, as I call myself, being the author mom, I like to have that type of control where I'm like, "Hey, I'm in control here, not you. Now you shut up." I like to assert my dominance with these characters. Right. Well, like if a little advice, you could take it. You don't have to. But I find letting the characters have full control of your imagination and like letting your characters have a mind of their own, it definitely makes for some interesting events. Oh, for sure. It makes things more interesting in the end. I've found it's a lot more fun just kind of letting my characters have their own thought processes and stuff, like letting them take over my mind in a sense, because it kind of gives them the free will. But in the essence of them having that free will, I still get to have a little bit of that control over them. Where I'm like, because like I said, Lorelai and Damien are like, "I hate you. I don't want to be with you. I'm not gonna marry you." And I'm sitting here like, keep talking, keep talking. You say this now. Keep talking. Just keep going. You know, because when I say that, I'll sometimes threaten. I'll sit there. I'll be like, "Hey, you guys keep talking all you want," and then they kind of back off because they're like, "Oh shit! If we keep talking, it's not going to end well for either of us." No, because I don't feel right doing that because that's not a character I created and it kind of feels like stealing. So I kind of stick with the characters that I've developed for the novel. And like other characters I have for other novels, I will not bring them in either because it complicates things way too much. So I just kind of let the characters in the novel. It's like, for instance, I only let characters from speed dating for vampires. I only let them run wild in my head right now because that's what I'm currently working on. But once I finish that book and get it published next year and released, then I could go and let the characters from For the Love of Azathoth, I'll let them run through my head until I get that one done and released. And so it's like the only characters in my head at a set time are the characters in the novel I am currently working on. So it doesn't complicate things, it doesn't mix things up, so I'm like frazzled. It's kind of to preserve not only my creative flow but my sanity, if you will. But I'll never let other authors' characters run through my head because I don't know. It just kind of makes me feel like I'm stealing when I do that, and I don't want to do that. Yeah. I mean, trust me, I would love to let Casper run through my head and live there rent free when I'm writing, but I won't do that to Patricia because that's a character spent she spent all of her blood, sweat, tears, and time on that one character, and if I let him run through my head while I'm writing my own book, it just doesn't feel right. I mean, she could probably, I mean, if she were to tell me right now, hey, let him go through your head while you're writing your book, even then I couldn't, just because my conscience wouldn't let that happen. Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can't put a copyright on names, you know? There are certain things you can't put a copyright on, so, like, if he wrote about a Nexus and you have a character named Nexus, it technically isn't stealing because it is not a copyrighted thing. But I could definitely understand that like, the way it makes you feel when you do, well, like, when you, like, in that situation, because that's how I feel. Like, when I think of other authors' characters when I'm writing mine, I'm like, okay, I can't do this because it feels like theft. Yes. And then not only that, but we also have other authors out there that have a tendency of stealing. Like, I have this friend who is an author, and she had this guy literally steal her book that she has written, and he was trying to pass it off as his own, and she confronted the guy, and he was straight up like, I did not do that, I did not do that, I did not do that. And the person that is like the owner of the site that she uses to write her books on, like, she was consulted by this guy, and he straight up said, this is my book. I was wondering if I could, I can't remember if he was trying to, like, publish it under his name or showcase it. I can't remember what he was trying to do with it, but he straight up took a screenshot of my friend's book and said, this is my book that I have written. Can I do this with it? And my friend that actually wrote the book, like, she had to go through all of these hoops to show that this guy did not write that book, that she did, in order to get this guy taken care of, in a sense. Like, basically, it's not that she was trying to silence him, it was basically she wanted him to face the consequences of his theft, and I have to say, I don't blame her, because she put all of that time into that novel. Like, nothing but blood, sweat, and tears right in that one novel. And this guy who didn't contribute, he didn't write anything in that book. He's passing it off as his own. So we have AI, but we also have like other authors, or I should put in quotes, air quotes, authors that are stealing other authors' work as well. Like, it's a scary world for actual writers nowadays, because we can put all of our time, all of our thoughts, all of our blood, sweat, and tears into a novel, and somebody can easily come up and say, hey, I wrote this is mine, and sometimes you're looked at as the plagiarist, or you're looked at as if you're the thief. It's really sad, like, where things have gone. Well, what's got you nervous? Right. But with that being said, do you guys have anything else you want to bring up or want to discuss? Well, that's the beauty of it. I mean, write your own adventure. Go out there and make a name for yourself in your own little adventure, cuz you know, this is your life, and it's time for you to enjoy it, time for you to cherish it, time for you to make your mark in the world, make make your own adventure in this world. It's gonna be good for you. I cannot wait to see where this takes you, not only as a reader, but as an author as well. All right, I think that about sums it up for this episode. Expect an episode either next week or the week after. That's kind of dependent. We're gonna try to do it every week, an episode a week. But with my schedule and um, with my schedule as a PA, sometimes I don't have the time. So we're gonna try every week at first. But if that does not work out, it'll be a bi-weekly podcast. So expect an episode next week, and we'll see where things go with the timing. But yeah, next week we will have a more in-depth topic that we will be speaking of. Tonight was an introductory thing, as this is the first episode. So now you know a little bit about us, what we're doing, and next week we will dive into a set topic. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I say keep reading. Read what you love and screw everybody that has a problem with it. Because at the end of the day, you're free to love what you love. Don't yuck anybody else's yum, because that's kind of crappy. But with that being said, pick up a book this week, read it, enjoy it, and if you decide to come and view the live stream in next week, let us know what you've read. Let us know what you thought of it. All right, have a great week, guys.